we are going to welcome the host and director of Leafs Morning Take. Get ready for it, Dan. Nick Alberga.
Hey, sick hype. What's going on, guys?
What's happening, Nick? How we doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's a quick turnaround in these parts. Like, left the rink last night at like 12, got prepped for my show today. Next thing you know, it's 1:30, but here we are. How are you guys today?
We're great. Did you buy a cowboy hat yet?
No, I already have one. I've been in Nashville a billion times.
Yeah, yeehaw. We have so many questions for you. Thank you for joining us. Just one thing on the broadcast yesterday, it seemed so loud, was the Go Leafs Go chant. I'm one of those jerks that when I lived in Saskatchewan, I would go to Calgary to watch the Leafs play. What was it like actually in the building? It looked like there's a lot of Leafs fans.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, I, for the life of me, wish Scotiabank Arena was like that. It's my first go of things on this Alberta double. I've been to games in Edmonton, but never Leafs and the Oilers. And it was my first crack at Leafs and Flames, and just a different atmosphere. Like I always say, you're going to find the true Leafs fans on the road, but it's so true. Like, for example, I was in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and the boos for Mitch Marner were louder in Vegas than they were in Toronto. So it makes sense of that for me. I thought it was awesome. I thought the crowd came to play, ignited early by Willie Nylander scoring 35 seconds in, and it just adds a different sort of feel to the game, regardless of where these two teams were in the standings, to have that type of crowd. So I thought it was great, guys.
And then I loved hearing that. I love that Leafs Nation travels well, but I'm with you. Scotiabank Arena, it's like pins will drop during some moments. Like, do you guys know that there's hockey happening right now? But you don't know this about me. Most people don't. I lived in Calgary, and I used to cover the Hitmen, and I almost quit covering them because I could not do what you did yesterday. We're going to play the video for those watching right now. Is having to do this walk to the press box. It is insane. I almost quit, and then they let me sit in the stands up high to avoid this. Like, what is that moment like? And you're recording on your phone. So I wanted to vomit watching that video. So thank you for this.
No problem. So I actually got correction on this from Ryan Pike, who works here for Barn Burner and Flames Nation, that wasn't the official catwalk, by the way. I think it's so damn cool, as you know, Lindsay, like in the middle of the building, there's an actual catwalk where you can walk over the ice. So I was corrected on that front, but nevertheless, I am afraid of heights for some reason. I wasn't, scared walking that catwalk. I think there's a grittiness to that building. I will say that, from where the washrooms sit to it took me half an hour, and nobody really had an answer of how to get in to the Saddledome. It was my first time, but really cool experience. I'm really excited for the great folks here in Calgary, a new building coming in 18 months from now, which is awesome. But yeah, there's just that level of grittiness. Like, if you guys been to the arena in Sudbury for the Sudbury Wolves, it's got that feel to it for sure.
Yeah, does it ever? And that smell to it sometimes. Just saying. Sorry, Sudbury fans.
It's a must.
But like, still, that walk is still crazy. I know it's not the one you go right over the ice, but you still having to get to that press box is not a fun time. I want to ask you an actual Leafs question, though. I know that 3 months ago you planned this trip. So what were your expectations 3 months ago to compare to the actual reality that you face?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, my expectations that we're going to be getting ready, I should say, for the Olympic break, the trade freeze. Was Luke Schenn going to be a Maple Leaf? Who else were they going to add? And were they going to get ready for the March 6th trade deadline and amp up for a potential run at another, look at a Stanley Cup at the very least? I know they really haven't sniffed it in the last decade, but at least get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And here we are in early February, and it seems like a sell-off is coming for this team. That being said, I've talked about the last week. Would anybody be shocked if this team went on a bit of a run, finished 3-4 points out of a playoff spot? Probably not. But yeah, it's incredible in short time how this season just pretty much came to an abrupt halt following that successful road trip out west. And they come home. I called it the homestand from hell. And here we are in early February, and it looks like the Maple Leafs are going to be sellers. And even talking to a bunch of fans around the city yesterday, like, people want this team to lose. So naturally, that's when they win, right, guys?
Yeah, it's that's how it happens for the Leafs. And last night was actually a big game for the Tank, considering where Calgary sits in the standings. So to win that one in regulation, for those looking for the Leafs to drop like a stone in the standings, it actually hurt quite a bit. And that's kind of like where the season stands, right? You're too far away from the playoffs. You're too far up on a bottom 5 spot, which is where the Leafs would need to get their first round pick because it is owned by the Boston Bruins. It kind of just feels like this is a death march with no reward at the end of it. Usually like the death march has like, hey, here's the cherry at the end of the road. Like there's a great draft pick, a cool prospect for you to build around. But the Leafs probably aren't going to get any of that. It's just like, oh, we're going to go into the summer with like not much of anything. And that's the worst place to be for this franchise right now.
Yeah, Reach. I mean, it's so disappointing on so many levels. And I think there's going to be a bit of optimism today in the market. They beat Vancouver in a shootout. Congratulations. They beat Calgary, who doesn't want to win. Congratulations. Like, it's just so Maple Leafs. Like, I was almost expecting Nylander to give the double bird there after scoring that goal 35 seconds in, where it's like, oh, yeah, you want a tank? No thanks. But he absolutely dominates Calgary. It's been a theme. Of course, he spent a year and a half here to start his life. And so I guess he's a hometown native of Calgary. I thought he was great. I thought the puck was on his stick all night long. And, you know, I wonder what I'm looking to see from this Maple Leafs team in the final 26 games of the season. I guess entertain me. And I will say I was entertained by the overtime in Vancouver, entertained by the game last night. But the fact that you're up 3-0 and almost blow it. And I don't know how Adam Klapka missed that in the third period, but Joseph Woll will take it. And now you move forward to this game in Edmonton. I think this is the real barometer check for where this Maple Leafs team is at with Willie Nylander playing a pissed-off Oilers squad coming off an embarrassing loss to Minnesota. They can't get a save. Anthony Stolarz, I think, has surrendered 9 goals and 51 shots since returning from the nerve issue. So, like, this is a big barometer tester tonight against McDavid and the Oilers.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a bit of a pillow fight, to be honest, like with a bunch of guys ready to go to the Olympics and a bunch of other guys ready to go to Cabo or wherever their vacations are planned for the next couple of weeks. But we'll see how it plays out. And, you know, I guess my biggest question mark about where the Leafs stand, and, you know, over the weekend we hear, okay, they're starting the process of selling off some pieces, but nothing too big. And that's where because you can't really go too big with a sell-off. You don't own your next 2 first-round picks, so it doesn't really make sense to tank so hard beyond this season that you're trying to climb out of it as early as next year. Like, how deep should this sell-off go? Should they think about moving one of, you know, Nylander or Matthews if anybody is truly motivated, as some seem to be suggesting right now?
Yeah, firstly, I'll say, I know you've been in Vancouver for a long period of time, and welcome home. I told you that behind the scenes. But they got to channel their inner Vancouver Canucks. I need a different type of wording because we like to call it a rebrand, a retool, a rebuild, some R word. And I want to see a letter to the fans via the New York Rangers. It would be so Maple Leafs that they don't say anything. It's my expectation, by the way, that Brad Treliving, the GM, is going to speak, I believe, following this game tonight, whether it's tomorrow or Thursday after the trade freeze. And I mean, to get back to your question, I would call it a soft retool is the way I would phrase it. I think the Canucks coined that first, so credit to them and their management staff. But if you're the Leafs, I don't know how much heavy lifting you can do right now. I think bigger conversations clearly will be had in the offseason. It's going to start with a guy who missed last night's game, and that's Morgan Rielly. You guys want to hear an awesome stat, or even a crazy stat, I should say. The Maple Leafs 24-5-1 in the last 30 outings without Morgan Rielly in the lineup. Like, make sense of that for me. So I think that conversation will heat up once again here in the summer. I really don't see a pathway, at least right now, where it's Nylander or Matthews out the door this summer. You just never know. So I look at a couple of guys specifically. Bob McMahon, who scores number 18 last night via the empty netter. I think he's got value, the highest value right now out of rentals, clearly, for this Maple Leafs squad. I think a lot of teams will be vying for him, more so because of the cap hit, his versatility. I think he can be that Lehkonen type, that Barbashev type that potentially puts a team over the top. Like, I'm not marketing for and trying to help the Maple Leafs out with a return on investment here, but I think there could be a bidding war, believe it or not, for a Bob McMahon. I think it's more likely Scott Laughton's going to be re-signed. I just think he's very, very valuable to this team, what they're trying to build for the last decade, and he's a local product from where I'm from in Oakville, so I think I could see him back. And I would probably look at one piece on the back end. I don't know who it's going to be, whether it's a Brandon Carlo, a Simone Benoit. Like, every team's looking for that 6th or 7th defenseman at the deadline that can add some depth if somebody gets banged up in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I don't expect a lot from this Maple Leafs team between now and even tomorrow's trade freeze or the March 6th trade deadline. But Bob McMahon's the one guy I would start with for sure.
Yeah, the idea of trading Carlo, though, man, like you ain't getting Fraser Minton and a first round pick back. No. So that's going to be a tough one if Brad Treliving goes down that road, because it'll be an admittance of how much he overpaid to make that deal last year. The whole Matthews thing, Elliott mentioning over the weekend that he's still committed to being a Maple Leaf moving forward, and those are great signs, but I don't think anything's set in stone. Not to be pessimistic about it, but Matthews has never missed the playoffs, right? And Toronto can be very kind when you're in the playoffs. I know it hasn't always been kind the way things have ended, but Marner was more of the whipping boy than anybody else at the end of the playoff disappointments. I wonder if things change, because if this keeps going down the road that it's currently going, it's going to get a lot more uncomfortable for a guy like Auston Matthews here in Toronto. And that might shape his future down the line.
What are the chances we get an Auston Matthews Players Tribune letter today? Like, how random was that from 97 yesterday? Like that,
I didn't know Players Tribune was still a thing, to be honest.
That was weird timing. Like, you're getting ready for the Olympics, and that's when you voice your allegiance to the Edmonton Oilers. To answer my own question, I don't think we're going to see that from Matthews. But yeah, you're right. Like I thought, like no kidding, that you're going to reaffirm your commitment to the organization. Like, you're not trading an Auston Matthews right now, nor is he deciding to move on right now. Like, you're not Giannis. Look at the NBA, right? We get closer and closer to the trade deadline. It's one thing to say, yeah, I want out. It's another thing to find a potential suitor, which Milwaukee's having a difficult time with right now as we get closer to the deadline tomorrow. So I think it's certainly a conversation that'll be brewed up, at least on our show in the summer. I think you got to be very careful with trading a superstar. I know Matthews had, disappointing stretches, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I will say, the biggest positive, and Jay Rosa likes to push back on this, because where the hell was this guy for the first 30 games of the season where effectively they blew it? But I think Matthews has been a much more noticeable guy in the last 25 games. Closer, I'll say, to the guy who scored 69 times a couple of years ago. He looks as healthy as he has in his career, which is a welcome sight for Leafs Nation. There's still a bitter taste, considering, again, where were these guys in general in the first 25 or 30 games. But yeah, I wasn't shocked to hear that story. I just don't think now is the time from either camp's side to open that can of worms, if you will.
Have you been shocked at all by the playing or lack there of playing time by Cowboy, also known as Easton?
Well, that's a good point. And I look for Easton Cowan to get back in the lineup. As much as I love brewing a coffee beside the guy in the press box in that weird-ass press box in Calgary last night, I much prefer to see Easton Cowan on the ice. And I think if there's one thing you can look at from the Maple Leafs perspective, there's some people stating, he should go play in the AHL, which I think is likely. I think he'll be sent down to the AHL during the Olympic break. After that, and everything goes as we expect, and the Maple Leafs miss the Stanley Cup playoffs, they don't go on this crazy run, I want to see Cowan get some legitimate minutes. Not to say he hasn't, but I think he's a guy who could really benefit from the final tail of the season and getting his feet under him here in his rookie campaign. But yeah, it's a bit perplexing, especially when you look at the lack of depth, at least in my opinion, in a guy like Calle Yarncroke, who they're clearly trying to trade, and that's why they continue to play him. I think Cowan, even with his blemishes, and I was there in the building a couple weeks back, that game, Mo Satter just shoved him he bullied him off the puck in OT, and the Red Wings win it. I think I'm okay with those mistakes, because I can clearly see the future here is pretty bright for Easton Cowan. So hopefully he gets back in there tonight against Edmonton in the back-to-back.
We didn't see this on the broadcast. I'm wondering if this played during a timeout. Was there a Troy from Richmond, also Troy Stecher tribute video that happened in Calgary?
That's a good question. I love how self-deprecating Troy Stecher is. This is 3 revenge games in a row, guys. He has played for half the league, and he is a self-anointed suitcase, by the way. I interviewed him a couple of months back for Leafs Morning Take, did a one-on-one with him, and I thought he was great. He's just so chill, and I think he's been a pleasant surprise for a very disappointing Maple Leafs team this season. And he talked about it in his post-game musings yesterday, how he's a suitcase in every game, sort of a revenge look. But 3 in a row here before the Olympic break, looking at the Vancouver game, scores last night, great celebration, crowd was buzzing. And then the cherry on top, the return to Edmonton tonight. But I tried to get more out of him when I interviewed him a couple months back, asking if it meant anything different. He said no, but I know for a fact he was very beloved in that Oilers room, has a lot of close friends there. So I'm very curious to see the reaction. But to the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure if I saw the video tribute last night, weirdly.
What? This is crazy. All the teams should have one ready. They should have commemorative jerseys, everything for that. We would love shirts with your face on it because you're awesome. We appreciate your time today. I know the turnaround was short, but we appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you again on Leafs Morning Take. Go watch, go subscribe. You're the best. Thanks, buddy.
My pleasure, guys. Take care, okay?